When I was very young, my mother, she asked the teacher if I could learn a piece by Bartók because she liked so much Bartók's music. I never played a classical piece, so my teacher studied with me a simple folk dance or something, and that was the beginning of my interest in more classical music.
20th century music decided, well, why are we only picking some of these notes to make a major scale or a minor scale? Wouldn't it be more natural to give an equality to each of those 12 notes? And that gave rise to kind of atonal music.
I started to experiment with different chords and started to discover also pianists who worked more abstract. And for example, then found Ran Blake, a very interesting pianist, very poetic, very abstract, but still very jazz-oriented pianist.
Jada, 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 jing, jing, jing. Jada, 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 jing, jing, jing. Shabba-doo, babba-doo, babba-doo-da, bee-ba-doo, dabba-doo-da, jada, 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 jing, jing, jing.
When he accompanies Jenny Lee, the singer, the way he plays chords very abstract in a way, like for example. So in a way, he started to change the chords that I all learned. I started to study that I wanted to find for every existing chords the most dissonant way to play it. So for example, to make it simple, when you have, let's say, C major, that I played, for example, like this. So that I have this dissonance here, instead of playing it like you do it in jazz, for example. I can also take the 9 and even also rhythmically, I found it interesting that we have a lot of pianists who are also playing minimal in a jazz sense. For example, Thelonious Monk, who also composes in a very minimalistic way. From epistrophe and with I think he plays it once with triplets, but then I put it into my way of 3 against 4, and then suddenly we had
players like John Coltrane went inside-outsides, as it's called in jazz, playing inside the harmonic framework and playing outside as well, and it is a very effective way of increasing the tension.
That all started to mix and influence me, and also somehow to overburden me with all that styles and all that possibilities, all that ornament possibilities and everything. And that finally led to the idea that I wanted to focus on my core affinities. Rhythmic counterpoint, long minimalistic flow that formally loads itself up, and to a way of organizing this music in bands.
Most of the stuff which I've heard Nik do, he will use dissonance as a way of increasing tension. And then, of course, resolution follows, and we all live happily ever after.
Nik, in his music, he likes to explore just the full range of those 12 notes. Those decisions about how to shift the key will often be driven by a kind of underlying symmetry.
When we compose, we have a technical level. This is how we work with motifs, with patterns, with blendings, with combination dynamics and sound. The other level is aesthetically. I once had a course with the German avant-garde composer Helmut Lachenmann, and in that workshop I played his piano piece Guero, where you only work with sounds. He said every sound, every action has an aura. And this is not meant esoterically, it is meant in history. Sometimes you hear a violin note, a certain chord, and you exactly know, oh, that's Beethoven, or that belongs to this period.
Prepared piano came about with people like John Cage, because when we look at classical music, people were beginning to think, well, how do you improve on Mozart? How do you improve on Brahms? Where do we go from here? And the only way to go, really, is recombinations of existing knowledge, which applies right the way across the arts. Tonality became key in their explorations. Do we really need tonality? What can we do to change the tone and our expectations of music? So you got very elaborate explorations of electronic music in the Darmstadt school, Schoenberg and so forth, all exploring elements of sound, going in then to tones, and then the whole essence of music and harmony and so forth. So everything was up for grabs.
Morten Feldman said there is no similar note like the octave, but we have like 88 different sounds, and depending on how you combine them, they sound good. Favorite chord is difficult to say, but I have a chord that calms me down and opens me up at the same time, and that appeared in module 12. And of course you can analyze it as a B minor 6, 7, but it has interesting dissonances integrated into consonances, for example like this. And with this one, so sometimes I shape it like with this, so we have here a dissonance, we have here this dissonance, and we have the 6 with the minor third. But I like also very much, for example, the chord that we can hear in Debussy's Les Feuilles Mortes, which has a connection to Stravinsky's chords, how he writes them, so that's this one. And depending on what bass note you put under it, it has very different meanings. That one I like because it's major, minor, everything is included in a way, and we maybe can find a blend of that also in module 32. Find in this music a chord that has a relation to the tradition but also shows a new aspect, and the potential is not so simple because you cannot just create modern chords. Module 32 is a very good example how Latin rhythms have influenced us, although you don't hear it. It's a lot about on and off, so if you go to the upbeat or to the downbeat on the several levels of subdivision. And the interesting thing is that the drum beat against the bass line starts to shift, especially in the later development of the piece. On the left side, we see the bass line, and on the right side, we see the top voice, and in the middle, we see the drum organization. And in the middle lower part, we have the 2x7, 14, and on top, we have the hi-hat. If you would shift these patterns all onto the one, it would be actually quite a simple, normal piece. But with these little shifts, it starts to have a balance and a oscillating kind of glowing that is so fragile but also so strong when we play it. I find this also one of the pieces that shows really what this music is all about. So there is a rhythmic figure and there is a harmonic figure, and also two patterns against each other in terms of intervals. So we have this against this. So we have beat is actually structured in the whole figure. You can see this 4, 3 and 3 and 4, or as a whole cycle, because the drum beat goes over the whole cycle and includes the several patterns that are happening. That's written actually in the beat like okay, so that's even composed in the beat.
Like Brazilian music, the weight is on 2. So you have some parts which are straight on the beat and some are like a 3 feel. So you need the language of these different parts and put it together. It is difficult, but when you understand the system, it's not so difficult.
I remember times on stage where I was suddenly like waking up thinking, oh, do I think I'm still in the right place? Because I lost myself that much on stage that I kind of woke up from a trance. And this doesn't happen with every music that I play, I think. That's what I really love.
It's my favorite song, so I put a lot of love in it anyway, even if I want or not, it's my song. I always tell Nik that's the best composition you ever made, you know.